Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Well, hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach, and today we have with us Laura Gale, who is the author of How to Write This Book, Write, Publish, and Market Your Business Bestseller. Laura, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me, Mike.
Hey, so it was really good to talk with you. I see that you have a really great publishing background, working with a lot of larger names and larger projects. So give us a little bit of background on yourself, and then what moved you to start your service helping people write their book through ghostwriting and marketing their book.
So it starts way back. I grew up in Sydney and went to university for writing and publishing, so was really immersed in this world right from the beginning of my career. And the first job I ever got was working as a publicist at Hachette Publishing Group, which is one of the biggest publishing houses in the world. And I was really fortunate working there to work with some amazing authors on their books, including Nelson, not directly, obviously, with Nelson Mandela on his memoir, with Tina Fey on Bossy Pants, Michael Palin, who's one of the original Monty Python guys, but who has gone on to become a great travel writer, working on his memoirs. And there was just an incredible scope of publicity projects for me to work on there. And publicity is really the end of the publishing process. So you're sort of taking the author through the process of promoting the book, getting it out in the world, making sure that people are actually reading it after all of this hard work has gone into producing it. In 2011, the publishing industry was really struggling to kind of keep afloat with the rise of Amazon and ebooks and everything. And there was a big layoff in my team. And while I was fortunate to keep my job, I just realized I've got to work out a way to do this myself and not be reliant on an industry that's maybe not adapting as fast as I would like it to. So struck out, sort of worked out how to do content marketing and writing for clients and that kind of thing. And eventually a client said, "You used to work in publishing, right? You could help me with a book if you really thought about it, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess so."
As long as you're asking, sure.
Yeah, why not? I'll figure it out. And that's basically what happened. We worked on his book. It went really well, and I loved the process, loved the immersive kind of focus that a longer project like that requires. And yeah, ever since then, I've basically just been offering ghostwriting for people, helping them tell their stories about their businesses and how they got to where they are.
You know, I think it's interesting because the projects you worked on are, memoirs and autobiographies and travel things that are story based, but yet you focus on how entrepreneurs can use books to grow their business. So at what point did you think, having a book that has a purpose? And of course, all books have a purpose. I'm an avid book reader, but the purpose is, here's an entrepreneur that needs to grow their business. Why don't we write it for the purpose of getting new business, new leads, business development? How did that revelation come about?
Well, it's twofold. I think that entrepreneurs have a unique position in our society, particularly these days when they're kind of our cultural heroes. They have so much influence in our society and they have so much to teach as well. And for a lot of people, I think entrepreneurship feels very out of reach. And so putting more stories out there about how people have done it really normalizes the process. And I think it empowers readers to be able to see a path to that success for themselves, which is something that I really want to help people do. Just having found that myself and the freedom that comes with it is very powerful. But for the entrepreneur, it's also just an extremely authoritative vehicle for their expertise. There's really no better way that I know of that highlights how much you know and how thoroughly you've learned your lessons. There's so much clout that comes with a book. I think really we look at authors even now, 600 years after the first book was published, as experts, as people who really must know what they are talking about if they've been able to put it all into a book. There's really no more tangible way either to communicate what you're about. If somebody has a physical copy of your book in their hand, there's a very small chance that they're ever going to go and work with somebody else. You've proven it to them and they can hold your expertise in their hand. And that's a very powerful experience. It's a very flexible asset as well. You can use it in many, many different ways. There's so many ways to market books, so many ways to build it into your existing marketing infrastructure, so many ways to use it to get greater exposure and speaking events, podcast interviews, all this kind of thing. There's just a multitude of opportunities that come along with publishing a book.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting where I distinctly remember talking to a business owner. This was maybe 3 years ago, and they were just so excited about their 8.5 by 11 full color brochure, and they pull it out and it's like, 6 pages in length, and they're showing me all the pages, and all of a sudden I'm, looking at this going, it's just a brochure. And I think it cost them something like, I think they said $5 or $6 each. And they were so proud of that. And I thought, that's like a trifold brochure, or that's like a piece of, what are people going to, like, literally, what is someone going to do with that? Where do you put it physically if you were to hand that out? Because like a business card, maybe people these days still have some place they put business cards, but that's even going by the wayside, because where am I going to put a business card? But certainly a large brochure like that is not functional. Whereas, it sounds cliche to say, but books have shelf life. At least if you look at the book, scan over it, read the first chapter, last chapter, whatever it is, at least you're going to put it on a shelf and keep it. You're not going to throw it in the trash can. So I think that's a really big piece that people don't realize, is that you may not, maybe you might get your ego crushed if you give your book out to some people and follow up a few weeks later and say, what'd you think? And they go, I didn't quite read it yet. But you really don't need them to read every single word and respond back with, this is the best thing ever, to still have that authority built, because the fact that you have the book for your business really establishes yourself. And if they read the full book, wonderful. If they get the feel of it by reading through, scanning through of it, that's the main benefit.
Absolutely. And I think people really underestimate the value of just being in somebody's awareness on a regular basis. If you have a book on somebody's bookshelf in their office and they look at the book every day, the time that they decide that they need your solution, you're right there in front of them. And even if it's an ebook that they have, if it's on the Kindle app on their phone or on their e-reader, you show up every time they open that device. And so it's a really powerful subliminal positioning as well. You don't always have to be having every reader fully engaged in every single word you're saying, but I
think I read a stat recently that someplace, Barnes & Noble or somebody, said that, I think the number was only 63% of books, or maybe it was 63% of books ever get read fully. So, 37% of books ever get fully read. Well, that could be deflating, or it could be, that's just the way that it is. So you need to write clearly and concisely. But I think an interesting thing too is what you said about being on the forefront of people's mind. I've heard of this old book years ago, and the title just stuck with me because it has an application to what we were just saying. The medium is the message. And what I take that to mean is the medium, the platform that your message is on, tells the story so much more than just the words in there. Now, the words are super important, but I like to say it like this. Anybody can open up their computer and type up a Word document and write a blog post, an article, and then post it on their free WordPress blog. Well, people these days know that starting a WordPress blog or posting a blog is not really, it's not hard. But those same words, what if you had a series of your blog articles and you put that in your Amazon Kindle, put your book? Now, all of a sudden, those exact same words that people are just kind of not paying attention to because they're just a blog post. Now it's like, oh, you're a published author. Well, the medium, blog post versus book, that really screams the expertise and the authority that you want to communicate.
Absolutely. And I think, there's a lot that goes into transforming blog posts into a great book, but you're totally right. That concept of the medium being the message is a really well-established principle in marketing from Marshall McLuhan, I think it was, that first came up with this concept as a media professor. And it's so powerful. How you position yourself is really reflected by the mediums you choose to use. So if you're publishing a lot on social media, it positions you one way. If you're publishing a lot in books, it positions you a different way. If you're pursuing traditional media, it says something different. So it's really dependent on how you want to position yourself. And I think with books, there is a gravitas that comes with a book. There's a lot of weight that is behind, a collection of a few hundred pages. And it's a really, honestly, differentiating factor for a lot of people, because even if you are just stitching together blog posts and putting it into a book, you've gone a massive extra mile compared to what many people would ever bother doing, because it does take some work to figure out how to do that. And if you don't have a publisher behind you, it's very doable in the self-publishing landscape these days, but it does take extra work and some focus and some strategic thinking.
Yep. And so once someone decides, okay, this is what I want, and now book is done, yay. So now I guess I'm going to get, floods of new customers and clients. And that's not the case. And that's not even remotely close to being the case. So you need to do something with your book. And the way that I know that you would agree with is you never, ever, ever want to tell someone, wow, you're going to make so much money from royalties. You might make, a little, pocket change here and there, but the point is not making money from your book. It's making money because you have the book. So what do you advise your clients as far as now using the book, whether it's in your market, or how do you get the word out? How do you get people aware of it so that you get sales, and then also so that it benefits their business?
Absolutely. So I think the royalty question is just so massively misunderstood for a lot of people. Really, you're right. It's going to be change. It'll be enough to pay your Netflix bills probably. It's not going to be life-changing amounts of money. But the way you recoup the cost of creating the book is by attaching it to an offer that your business makes. So I work primarily with entrepreneurs who have high ticket offers. So this fits really nicely with them, because often they'll only need to sell one or two of whatever their package or product is to recoup the total cost of their project. And so if you can connect your book to your sales process, that's where you're going to see the biggest response. There's so many ways, as I said before, that you can use the book, whether that's, giving away a free sample to get somebody into your email list and into your sales funnel, or if you're using it as a low-cost purchase to get them to buy something bigger on the back end, or as a filter for whether or not you're going to explore a sales conversation with this prospect. There are lots and lots of ways that you can use it, but primarily you're going to see the biggest returns where there's something else you can sell as a result of the person having read that book.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess you kind of get back to how do you generate your leads, which should work toward generating calls or interactions, which then should work toward getting new business. And however that is, and you think about now all the things we all day long get barraged with marketing messages, click this and look at this new course or a Facebook ad or an ad on a YouTube video, and all the things that we could be distracted with. Well, how do you get in front of clients? And if it is just an ad, or whether it's Facebook or a Google ad, what would be something that would stand out to make someone want to click and then interact with you? Well, sometimes it is being seen as someone that is credible and trustworthy, and just having the next checklist or download might not be enough. So I think that ties right into helping any of your marketing campaigns perform a little bit better, wouldn't you think?
Absolutely. And books are also great because you can leverage them over and over again. It's kind of a way to get off that content hamster wheel. You have this sense that you constantly have to be putting out new content, more content, always, always, always on. But when you have a book, you can use content that you've already created to continue educating and engaging your audience. You can take snippets from a chapter and share it. You can repurpose things as blog posts. You can promote it on podcasts. You can use it as creative for your Facebook or Google ads. You can share snippets on news websites as syndicated content. There's just endless ways that you can repurpose that content, and it saves you and your team from having to spend the time and resources that are necessary to constantly be generating new campaigns.
And what do you advise when you work with people as far as the length Because I think getting back to, the stats about people not finishing a book, and we want this to be something that would lead to potential business. Is a quick read good? Do you want it to be 300 or 400 pages so that it's, the anthology of everything you need to know about whatever the topic is? Where do you go that way?
So personally, I like to aim for about 200, 250 pages. So it's not a super quick read, but it's also not every single detail that you've ever accumulated in your life.
Yeah.
It's, it's a length where people will take you really seriously. They can see that you know what you're talking about. There's a lot of information in there that's going to make them feel very confident about what you're talking about. But it's not so much that there's no mystery left. It's not so much that you have given them literally every single thing that they could possibly need to go off and do this thing themselves. There's still going to be some interest in working with you.
That's a good point, because I know I advise my clients that I work with. There's one client just this week in the environmental services business that I was saying, we need to structure the message to market so that you are describing the why this product or service is necessary, not the how. Because if you tell too much of the how, then they don't need you. So how do you advise when you're working with clients to structure the book content to tell a lot of good content, the why this is important, but given just little hints at the how, or still holding back so that it encourages them to contact the author for further help?
I really think there are very few people that are going to read a complete book and think, yep, I know exactly what to do. I'm going to go away and implement this entire system myself. So I do think that while you don't want to lay it out in perfect step-by-step SOP kind of structure for them, you do want to make it possible that if someone was really determined, they could reverse engineer your process and implement it themselves. But it's also a question of showing them how much work has gone into getting to your position of expertise, how much work goes into delivering a really amazing product as well as you do, showing them that you can do it yourself if you want to, but it's going to be much, much easier if we do it for you. So it's really about sort of how you position what it took for you to get to where you are now and what it takes for you to continue performing at this level on a day-to-day basis, and just showing them that this is not a cakewalk. This is something that you've really got to work at. And we've been doing it a long time. So we have a moat around our business. There's a real competitive advantage to our current position, and, the smartest people are working with us. And so probably the best option is also for you to work with us.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Laura, thank you so much for coming on today. So if someone wants to learn a little bit more about your services, your ghostwriting, and bringing a book project to life, how can they reach out and connect with you?
So the best place is through my website, lauraiswriting.com. And if you head over there, there is a free download available of my book called How to Write This Book, which talks you through the entire process that I use to work with clients, all the way that I have developed this ghostwriting process. So that's over there waiting for you guys.
Excellent. Well, Laura, thank you so much. And I encourage anyone that's interested in that just to check out her resource. And if you like this episode or this show, please also go to ratethispodcast.com/influential and leave a review on iTunes. And thank you so much, Laura, for coming on today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Mike. It was great.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneurssradio.com.